Welcome to This Is What I Do, where we explore the work that is waiting to be done in our community. I'm your host, Amy Seymour. Today we are talking with Dominique Bunker from the United Way of the Lakeshore. Welcome, Dominique. We are pleased you are here. We are the Rotary Club of Muskegon, part of Rotary International, a group of more than 1.4 million individuals from around the world, whose goal is to create lasting, positive change. We've been doing that here in Muskegon since 1916. One of our goals is improving the local economy. This vocational spotlight program assists students in making rewarding career choices. We hope that they can remain in our community and improve life here for all of us. That's why we're here today. So Dom, please tell us who you are and what do you do?
So my name's Dominique Bunker, and I am the Community Engagement Director over at United Way of the Lakeshore.
Well, what does that consist of? I know a lot of people don't really know what United Way is.
Yeah, so what doesn't it consist of, right? So my main day-to-day is I get to run and operate our volunteer center, and I work with over 6,000 volunteers across Muskegon, Oceana, and Newaygo counties. I help oversee some of our marketing and communications and get to work with our great partners in that space. And then I also help with some of our grant writing and some of the federal, kind of the boring data stuff, right?
Well, that brings up a good subject. How do you get to be in that kind of a role? What did you go to school for?
I actually went to school purposely to work for nonprofits. I really wanted to come back to Muskegon County and serve the community that helped raise me, through my family's tough times and things. So when I was trying to figure it out, there's not a lot of nonprofit programs out there. So business was a great way to do that. I actually studied entrepreneurship with a focus in product development. So that kind of relates to the program aspect of it and volunteerism. And then I minored in nonprofit administration as well as marketing.
So what do you think is one of the most difficult parts of your job?
The most difficult parts, I think, is capacity, right? So, and I know you're in this field too, right, with Harbor Hospice, it's when you see all of the amazing, great work that your community is doing. There's always going to be more, right? There's always going to be another person that needs that extra help hand, that extra piece. And part of that is just being able to bring on your community members with you. So whether that's helping recruit, right? So that's the other great part of my job, right? Is I get to help recruit the volunteers to help. But it's whenever we can't meet a need right at that moment because of whatever it might be, whether it's lack of funding, lack of bodies, time, or space. That's got to be the hardest thing in the world. And we do everything that we can with it, but it does get difficult.
So when someone, a youth, is looking to go into maybe this type of work, are there ways that they can get involved so that they can kind of see for themselves if this is a passion for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Not everybody has to be a volunteer coordinator and oversee a volunteer centerpiece, right? But if you want to get into a field, honestly, any field even, you can find experience through volunteering. And I know, I'm biased, right? I run the volunteer center, and that's going to be my answer. But it's true. You can find and connect with amazing organization and agency partners to get experience before you even get off to college, to witness firsthand, is this something that I'm going to be able to do? Is this something I like doing?
So you grew up here in Muskegon. Are there any youth clubs that these kids could possibly get involved with that you are aware of that we still have today?
Yeah, so I went to Oakridge High School, and it's already way different than what it even was, 10, my gosh, I feel so old now, right? 10 years ago when I was graduating, right? But it's already so much different. And what I would say is, from some of the things that I've learned is, if you're a religious person, getting involved with your church can really go far. And people do pay attention to that.
Is there anything that you find that kids would be interested in doing in a nonprofit? Do you think that it just, from your perspective, things that would really excite them with United Way? I know that we said that there's so much about United Way, but you have the Dolly Parton. I know kids can read. Are there things that they can really, there's like the jazz hands of it.
One of the coolest parts of my job is the day-to-day is always different. It is never the same. And I think that is the coolest and the funnest part of my job. So, if you are somebody that's getting interested in, whether that's starting to volunteer or just kind of like want to look at like what this career path kind of looks like, you'll be able to really kind of roll into a whole bunch of different roles. There's, on my week to week, there's days where I'm in my muck boots and, my waders, and I'm in the middle of the creek doing a watershed cleanup. There's the next day where I'm reading to a classroom in kindergarten and reading one-on-one with a child. And you mentioned like the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. Yep. There's other days where I'm at all of the really cool festivals and concerts in town, just like letting people know about the resources in the community. And then there's days where I get to like dress all up and go to like a really fancy gala, right? Like there is so many different opportunities, and that's where we really love to have our volunteers and those perspectives also leading in those opportunities. You don't have to be the leader of a club, right? You don't have to, you don't have to be the secretary or the vice president or some of those things. You can't have 100 head chefs, but everybody that's a part of an organization or trying to expand on an extracurricular, you play an important role and you are so valued because we can't do any of the things that we do without that help and that support role.
So if there's kids that are in our community, like during the summers, are there things that they can volunteer to do at United Way?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. We do dozens of community cleanups and working with our partners. So if you're super into the environment and want to make a difference in like our local neighborhoods, you can always check us out there. We're actually hosting a community baby shower in May. So we're working with mothers and children. We work with our local daycare providers to be able to read to the kids at the daycares. And there is just so much more. We even have students that serve on our grant committees that actually help us review the grant applications for these agencies for our dollars. So as a student, you actually get the opportunity to share your voice on what is needed in our community, how our agencies are addressing that, and then actually get to help us put dollars towards that. So as a student, your opportunities are super vast. We just have to make sure that we're meeting you where you're at and that we're able to make sure that you can come along on the bus with us.
Sure. Their voice matters. They're a big part of it.
Absolutely.
Any lasting comments that you'd like to share today?
Yeah, I think the greatest thing to be able to do is don't take anything for granted right now. You guys are making huge connections that are going to be able to help you throughout your lifetime. I wouldn't have had this job if it wasn't for me making a connection with somebody that I was tutoring, right? Like there are so many things that in high school that I was able to set up without even knowing how that was going to be able to expand on my knowledge and my growth later in life. So that's the teachers, your counselors, your peers themselves, they all really do matter. And make sure that you're keeping those connections in and checking in. The community that you live does love you.
We thank Dom for sharing her story with us today, and we thank you for joining us. If you think this program might help someone else, please send them the link. Until the next time, the Muskegon Rotary Club would like you to consider doing something good for your community.